Welcome to the Circular Firing Squad. I'm Marty, a counseling faculty at Kent State University and host for Circular Firing Squad. We have the short stack. We've got 3 members, 6 questions, and 3 answers to each question. Each squad member generates a question that we all have to answer, ranging from the scholastic to the bombastic. Let's see who's with us tonight.
Hi, I am Steph Martyr, doctoral candidate at Kent State University and practicing clinical counselor.
Hi, everybody. Elliott Ingersoll, professor of counseling at Cleveland State and host of Apply Topically.
Steph, you have the first question.
What are commercials that indicate the changing of the seasons?
Marty's favorite, pumpkin spice, pumpkin spice, pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
That came to mind.
That's your answer right there?
Oh, yeah, that was the whole thing.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. We have the same answer. I don't know, something was on one of these screens here, and on came a Glade candle, pumpkin spice candle, and then the room that the woman was standing in changed to falling leaves. And I thought, oh God, here it goes. I told this to Aileen today, and I said, we need to rebrand pumpkin spice. And we came up with squash, cinnamon, and nutmeg. Now, if you tell somebody you're going to get some coffee and we're going to put squash, cinnamon, and nutmeg in it, not as appealing as pumpkin spice. But essentially, a pumpkin is a type of squash. So squash, cinnamon, nutmeg. It's the squash, cinnamon, nutmeg season.
You could say jack-o'-lantern brains and nutmeg.
You're trying to squash the pumpkin spice by referring to it as squash.
Yeah.
See? Squashed by squash. Well, when I came up with this question, it was more like summer. I guess it still was summer turning fall, but it was more like the impending end of summer. And it was at the time like the Honda clearance or something. And it was Mr. Opportunity. And he would be like, and then he would knock and they'd make a little glass sound when he hit the glass. He'd be like, I'm Opportunity and I'm knocking. But it was always the Honda clearance at the end of summer because it would be like a week or so after I would get back from camp. And then it was like, oh no, it's all going to be changed. It's here. It's happening. And even before that, it was the Country Time Lemonade. When those kind of stopped, I knew it was over. I don't see commercials anymore. That's a question for another day, perhaps. But I watch so much streaming content that I'm kind of out of touch with commercials. But anyway, I would say it was the Honda commercial. But there's a lot. Pumpkin spice, sure. The Halloween store, all the Reese's pumpkin ones when those come out. And they have the howling wolf in the background. All right.
I saw the pumpkin spice Glade candle commercial last night because I watch are streaming services and streaming channels. And it was followed by an Old Navy jeans commercial. And I thought that might be seasonal too, getting into colder weather, got to have the jeans, things like that.
Well, I think what kind of superhero would you be? Counselor by day and crime fighter, or what by night?
Counselor by day. I'll start with the superhero part. As a superhero, I think my part would be to magically get people to just drop it. And that means whatever you're emotionally hung up on at the moment, just drop it. When you're upset about something, and the idea is that we spend a lot of time macerating on our emotional problems. So that's sort of my superhero. I could get whatever people were thinking at the moment to just drop it, just not do it. And I think that would apply well to counseling too.
That's surprisingly close to just stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that works.
Yeah. No, it's just funny. It brings up, if we should just say, if you know, you know. I don't know. It's difficult, but I'm going to revert to one of my user screen names that I was playing around with before I settled on one that is not this. But it was Anxiety Warrior. And it was just something, it's ridiculous. But maybe that's it. But it's spelled with an X. It starts with an X. So anxiety. And I would absolutely go around and help people keep their anxiety in the productive, beneficial mode that kind of keeps them alive without it going into the detrimental over um just excessive anxiety that can be debilitating to people, but helping them contain it. I would teach them skills and stuff. I mean, similar to what I would do, but I'd be more successful at it because my superpower would be getting them to be receptive. So more easily. There you are.
I think mine would be a character called Analog Man, and I'll go around and I'll help people reprogram clocks on their VCRs, and work with rewind machines. And when the quantum computing makes silicon basically obsolete, I think there's going to be a backlash. Half the people will want to go analog, half the people will want to go quantum, and when the people say I'm ready to go back to analog, I'll be there.
I think I've got the next question, and that is, what core counseling content would you like to completely rewrite?
I also hate that I'm going first for this, but really I'm kind of stumped on this for a minute. I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what both of you are going to say, but to completely rewrite, I mean, I kind of am like, I mean, I think it's like up there. It's like I get a sense, but to identify it accurately without sounding like a complete moron in this moment, I'm just going to defer. And if something better comes up, then I'll share that.
Fair enough. Well, I've said this before, but certainly the career curriculum, I would want to rewrite that. I'd still want to rewrite that. But the one that pops out for me is theories, because I start now with the common factors and I look at different theorists who have proposed common factors over time. And then I take the common factors and I give the students a colloquial description of what our job is, to help make aspects of people's lives or themselves objects of psychological awareness. And I just keep repeating that. And then I say the theories are just different ways to do that, basically using the micro skills that we teach you. So if you've got those two parts down, then yeah. But I think we should start with the common factors. And I don't know, arguing over whether one theory does more than another seems pretty useless to me. I think it's like saying one personality style does more than another. I just look at them as theories that are kind of tied to people's styles. But a lot of people did research. Rogers did research. Marshall Linehan's done a lot of research. But yeah, I would say start with the common factors and emphasize those.
Elliott, you and I are thinking completely along the same lines tonight.
And I'm not.
That's scary. I mean, that's not scary. It's fine.
We've been doing the show together too long.
What'd you say?
I said you've been doing the show together too long.
Well, I first said, theories, because there's a immediate frustration I have with how students learn theories and what they do with them, or should I say, don't do with them. And then I switched to career and I'm like, no, theories. So my thing on theories is we've been teaching it pretty much the same way for years, for eons. And that's, here's the theory, here's a week, go through the theory, and we'll have a discussion about it. The part that frustrates me is if you try to ask a student to step into the shoes of a cognitive therapist and describe a case in the way that a cognitive therapist would using the language, using the style of the therapist, basically getting them to think about how this theory explains the client's behavior, they can't do it. They can say, oh, cognitive, we look at false beliefs, and they tell me what they would do based on the list of techniques they read about, but they can't tell me how to conceptualize a client using the theory in the language of the theory. So I would, if I could change the teaching of theory, it would be set up the scenario so students will have to use that as a model that's in the back of their head. And I really don't care what theory they use, but they should know one well enough to be able to conceptualize a client based on that theoretical orientation, being able to use the language, like if they're going to write a case note to a as a Gestalt therapist, what would go in that for this particular case. Students haven't got there yet. At least I haven't gotten them there yet.
I like that I feel like the most important courses have gotten acknowledged. Like you both covered each other. You both went to those two. So that says something too. Anyway, My next question is, do you think counselors make good clients?
No more or less, I think, than other types of people and other people in other professions. I was trying to think about, yeah, sometimes people might overthink the treatment, but I think a counselor who's trained understands that the relationship is of primary importance. And, they're going to have to meet the counselor to be part of the relationship. I would say that maybe a more conventionally minded counselor would duel a little more with the therapist, maybe not, I don't know, but generally I don't know that they'd make different clients than anyone else. That's just my own kind of wondering about it. It was a cool question. I just hadn't thought about it.
Aha, finally something we disagree on. I think they make lousy clients. And I say that only being a client and having been a counselor or being a counselor. I've been to some really lousy counselors and lousy for me in the sense that they would do their prescribed way of doing what they do and not change. And knowing theories and knowing approaches really well. It's like, I've already read your playbook, dude. I know where you're going with this. I know where you want me to go with this. It might happen, but it's not helpful. So finding counselors who can really listen to what a counselor needs, given what their background is and given what their experience is. Some of the best counselors I went to were not counselors that question what I was doing, but question what I was being, because most of my anxiety comes around what I'm doing or not doing. And I found a good one and go back and forth occasionally to that one. But I'll tell you, my head as a client, being a counselor and teaching counseling way ahead of the counselor that's working with me. So that makes me a lousy client.
And that's kind of the spectrum that I was looking for too, because some might say that they can also be good clients. I don't know. I feel like, and I don't know if it makes me a good client or a bad client, where I feel like I am doing most of the work as a client should do, but I also feel like I also kind of dip into doing some of the counselor's work, like managing their time, or be like, oh, I know you have to go, you got someone, I'll see you next time. Things like that. So but in a lot of ways it can be good, but I think for the reasons that Marty was bringing up, I think that's what most anticipate, because I get a lot of, oh, counselors are the worst, and I'm like, I feel like make your job easy. But but at the same time, it's probably not good if we're going where I want to go all the time and go into my own pattern. It gets complicated. But I think in general, though, I'm not, I think counselors at least are looking to do work, I'd hope. And in that way can make them at least clients that it doesn't feel like you're pulling teeth, but it might be fun work where you are getting challenged. And participating. I think that's it. I'm hoping in that way counselors make good clients by participating, but they probably do make bad ones, because sometimes it's true. You see things, you're judging them. I've judged other counselors before. I'm like, oh, you did that, or you said that to me in the first session. Not good. You just totally told me about your own experience in a completely like, oh, it'll be okay because this is my life way. Anyway, it can make us critical, but maybe make good clients.
Yeah, we've talked about counselor elements before, and I'm really looking for someone who will be playful with me, and that I really require that. The counselor I still see, we had a room, and there was this big cabinet, like an armoire, maybe. It looked like something that would hold a wardrobe maybe 100 years ago. And I said, I always imagine there's different stuff in there. And then she did this whole Rorschach type thing with me. Let's talk about it. What do you imagine's in there? And I had portals to another dimension. I had dead bodies chopped up in mason jars. I had all kinds of stuff. And after about the third session, she goes, well, the time's come, Elliott. I'm going to show you what's in there. And there's a sex therapist who works out that office too. And it was all like sexual devices and things for stimulation, ointments to reduce viscosity. And it was just so fun the way that she did it. And I had all the things I imagined. I did not even come close to that. So anyway, that's what I mean by playfulness. Anyhow, back to me again. This was inspired by one of my mentors, Chris Favor, because I had to keep it was winter at Youngstown State, and I had these big boots I always wore because I walked, everywhere. And I was stomping on them and tying them tighter. And he said, those new? I said, no, I just got to get used to them every year. And he said, oh, yeah, I have my own rituals every season, too. And so I started thinking about it. What are some of your rituals as you move from summer into autumn?
Well, you led with the wardrobe piece, and so I kind of think totally about the wardrobe piece. And for me, I run warm. Let's put it that way. I'm a big guy and I run warm, and I particularly don't care for long sleeves. So it's unfortunate that I will tolerate short sleeves as long as people will tolerate seeing me in them. But a couple of things that happens with school, it's sort of like as a kid, you got, new shoes and a new clothes. As an adult, when the fall semester starts, I know we're going to move, at least in my climate, from warm to possibly rain to possibly snow by the end of the fall season. And I don't like big, heavy boots. And so I buy a set of new shoes. I go from my usual summer slip-ons to a little more heavier sole and rugged. And for me, the brand that seems to work for me in terms of my feet and my size and the width of my foot are Rockports. So I will go through and see what's new with Rockports and purchase some new shoes. Now, much to the chagrin of my wife, who says you have a whole closet full of shoes, I did thin those shoes out and it's starting to build back up. We're on our second or third layer of shoes. But I did purchase a couple of sets of shoes last week that she doesn't know about. So I feel like an alcoholic hiding my liquor, but I've got a couple of new pairs of shoes, and I haven't looked for shirts yet. That might come around times I have to travel or conferences and things like that. I'll try and look for some new shirts to wear at conferences. That's kind of my fall ritual as far as it goes.
It's funny because the answer that you both had to the first question was my answer to this question with pumpkin spice. And I won't be ashamed. I'm going to say it loud and say it proud that I like pumpkin spice. I had a pumpkin spice chai a few days ago and it was delicious. And and I have pumpkin spice pretzels upstairs. Yeah. They were $2.99 at Giant Eagle and I was compelled. They're fabulous. But that's my secret. Don't tell my family, because if I told my family, they would be gone before I woke up in the morning. So not because they're pumpkin spice exactly, just because they're junk food. And that goes fast if it's not hidden. But yes, starting to crave pumpkin spice, and the other thing is craving horror movies, which I've already started. I just started Videodrome, which I've never seen before. Like, yeah, old Cronenberg stuff. I've seen his kids things like Infinity Pool. That was part of last year's horror movie extravaganza. But I just watched Fresh, finished that. I'm starting early this year, but all the horror movies.
I talked about Cronenberg in my theories course because of A Dangerous Method was a Cronenberg film with Carl Jung, and I love that film in terms of showing the dynamic between Freud and Jung and Spielin and Otto Glass. There are some historic characters that are in there. And it's not as twisted as like Dead Ringers or some of which is also a great film. But I had to let students know this is Cronenberg, but it's not Scanners.
Yeah.
But one of the great Canadians of our time, by the way. I'm right there with you, Steph. The horror films. Yeah. Carl and I watched Long Legs and Night Swim the other night. Those were both really, really good and creepy. And I think my cooking changes as the weather gets going more towards stews, baked sorts of things, more breading on the meats, and that's a huge shift. Probably the big thing is when I pull out the navy bridge coat. It's like a pea coat, but it goes down to your shins. All wool, very warm. That's my cold weather coat. I got it like 20 years ago for, I don't know, $30, and it's still holding up. So when the bridge coat comes out, then you know it's almost time. And of course, the Halloween decorations go up. My son and I, we start on that, usually mid-September.
So, Elliot, did you talk about your summer autumn rituals?
Yeah, horror film and the bridge coat and the change in my cooking and baking.
Okay. All right. Then I guess the question is to me, which is a cooking question. What dish is your best? The one that you're the proudest of and that others rave about?
Well, one kind of baked good, which is not necessarily a dish, but one thing that I can make consistently well that I am kind of proud of is I have the best banana bread recipe. And yeah, it's something I've had and I've been making it this way at least. Well, it's been made this way for over 40 years. So I've been making it this way for at least 35 years. So it's good and I still make it and I saved it and I've printed it out and I made sure I have it for all time. The thing that kind of with fall season, actually, which I need to make more of, is a miso stew. So instead of just miso soup, I like load it up. I put in like a lot of baby bok choy and the shallots, and I just ginger. I mean, and it makes it a thick miso broth with what I put in there and the soba noodles, and it always comes out well, even though it's a little different each time. And yeah, we'll go with those. I like that. I actually can do some stuff. Okay.
That sounds really good, actually. Miso stew absolutely sounds good. Yeah, it's funny that you asked this. I got these questions after dinner, and we had our in-laws over. We had our end of summer blast. And when I've had friends down with COVID or a friend who had a child recently, what I've been taking them all summer is spare ribs, a olive oil based potato salad with mint and Turkish pepper, steak fries, if the potato salad, or steak fries, and then either fresh green beans in balsamic vinegar or corn on the cob, depending on if I'm cooking or if I'm just delivering food. But yeah, that's one people seem to really enjoy.
The dish that I've got to do two dishes now because you guys talked about whole entrees and a whole meal. So I'm gonna go do two. They're divergent. They're not necessarily connected to each other. But shrimp Creole over buttered rice. I get to make it occasionally. I get to make it occasionally. It is labor intensive. And you look at the recipe and you think, how can all of this mush in one pan turn out to taste so good? You'd think that there wouldn't be distinct flavors coming out of it, but it's really good. And I will not take credit for it. It's not a recipe I created, but it comes from A Taste of Heritage, the New African Cuisine, and it's an old cookbook, and it is from the nephew of a professor that I had in my graduate program, and he has a cooking school or had one in Savannah, Georgia. And so I picked up his cookbook. It's by Tony Tipton Martin, and Joe Randall is the chef. Well-respected sort of Gullah South, African influenced South Carolinian, Georgian type cuisine and cookbook. So Taste of Heritage, the New African American Cuisine by Joe Randall. Great cookbook, and it has an absolutely killer shrimp Creole recipe. The other recipe that I've made and given it to Turks is Ravani, which is it's a type of I don't know, cake in a sense, but it's made with not Creole, excuse me. It's made with sort of a cornmeal and semolina flour, actually, sorry. And it's got a little bit of sour cream in it. It's got eggs in it, and it bakes up into this small little cake that you do in a 8.5 by 13, and you pour 5 cups of sugar. And it's sugar that's been made into syrup. So it's like 4 cups of water, 4 cups. It's 4 cups of water, 4 cups of white sugar. I put a little lemon juice in it because that adds a little tang to it. And you pour it over the cake as it's warm, and the cake absorbs 4 cups of syrup. Put it in the fridge, and the next day it's just like heaven. You can only handle a little piece because it's so sweet. But Ravani is the other one that I would bring to the table as something that I make and people enjoy. And I made it for a couple of Turk students who were here as graduate students, and I brought some extra pieces in, and they were raved about it. So maybe they're just being kind, but people seem to like that.
You're holding out on me, Marty.
I've made it for some faculty stuff too. I brought it in for faculty.
Hit me where it hurts.
I do. Well, no, I mean, we have begun to open those things up, like soup days, and we do like different kinds of chowders or different kinds of soups, and then open it up for students who are around. So we've got a final shot question. This show is going quick. We've been through 6 questions, and the answers have been pretty direct. So a final shot question. And I think it was an Elliott brought this question to the table at one point. Your preference, hard cookies that go soft when stale or soft cookies that go hard when stale?
And this is funny for 2 reasons, but it reminds me of a question from What Do You Know? There was like somebody mentioned this or something like 40 years ago, because I would listen to NPR going back and forth to the music school settlement for piano lessons. Sorry, it was a short show. I thought I could be liberal with the final shot. Anyway, soft cookies that go hard, I think.
Well, I've exhaustively researched this in my last 63 years here. And I have, for my own taste, I can go with hard cookies. And when hard cookies go stale, they go soft. It just doesn't bother me that much. But when soft cookies go hard and they go stale, they kind of start breaking into powder before I even get it in my mouth. And then I got the beard and everything. So, I got to look at, did I get the crumbs out the beard? And so, yeah, I think the hard cookies that go soft are where my allegiances lie.
This one's real easy for me. Raw cookie dough. I don't let them get to the cookie stage. It drives Aileen nuts. I'll tell you a little secret. When it comes around Christmas, I'll buy some of that pre-made cookie dough and buy an extra one. And that's sort of my snack time. Either the sugar cookie dough, or I know Aileen doesn't eat chocolate. So if I get chocolate chip cookie dough, that's not going to go anywhere unless I take it there. So raw cookie dough was something growing up. My mom would make cookies all the time. They were fine cookies. They were Spritz cookies mainly is what I remember. But the cookie dough was the best part. I mean, scraping the bowl of what's left over in the cookie dough. So that is my choice of cookies. Generally, any other cookie in this household doesn't last long enough for me to see it. I bought a bag of Oreo lemon, whatever, yesterday. I think I had 5 out of those bags, and now it's disappeared within 24 hours.
Well, those are extremely good.
What?
Those are extremely good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good, but nobody will touch my raw cookie dough. That's the thing. So that's my answer. So thanks to the firing squad. Look for some of these characters on their podcasts on the podtalk.net. You can find out more about them at circularfiringsquad.net. Make sure and check out the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, hosted by Eric and myself, and Vision Profiles, a podcast about the Apple Vision Pro headset. Our theme music is from Menage a Trois, Real Swing Chet. That's it for this episode of Circular Firing Squad. Ready, fire, aim.